and collective identities, a result of the new sociality produced by internet communities. Warren Sachs states, quote, aesthetics for the internet need to concentrate on producing the means for visualizing and understanding how social and semantic relationships intertwine and communities and common sense emerge, unquote. He observes that new identities overcome cultural difference, although difference is the starting point. Perhaps it is more accurate to state that rather than a new universality, new particular and contingent identities form. So visualization systems that represent collaborative efforts or discourses require an aesthetic that allows the emergence of common and collectively constructed experiences. It is logical that designs with high degrees of interactivity could facilitate the creation of new identities or, quote, intersubjectivities, unquote, a wonderful term that Wieland Flusser has created for conjunctures. Early examples that I've shown have demonstrated degrees of interactivity in data visualizations. Interactivity appears to be an important part of cognitive process of learning by doing, engaging the body through navigation. And the third space that Bruno Latour describes between subject, object, and technology is the site of, quote, interactivity, intelligence, and creativity, unquote. And Ron Burnett offers the explanation that part of the power of this third space of technology-mediated experience is for the participant to be given the opportunity to gain agency by learning a system and aggregating knowledge through play. The same may be true of gaining visual understanding while navigating data sets. This leads to an aesthetic that allows users to exert agency through learning a system and even to adapt and change outcomes. So there are certainly different levels of interactivity within digital media as there are in relation to data visualization. Some visualizations simply provide navigation capacity, such as the ability to click on or mouse over material that the user chooses. Fernanda Viejas and Martin Wattenberg created Many Eyes, and if you've not been on the site, by all means check it out, it's quite fantastic. They built it in order to popularize the use of data visualization and provide a toolkit for building visualizations. And they hoped for at least 3 uses: to interpret textual data, to analyze complex objects, and to use visualization to initiate, quote, social data exploration. It's a highly interactive site where participants can add their own data, and they or other participants can create visualizations from that data set using a set of given templates. Users then export their visualization to their social media sites or their own context, and also comment on each other's visualizations. Other forms of interactivity privilege the impact of the information flowing through the site. In this instance, data can act as an agent, and interactivity is the flow of the data issuing from a stock market feed, a geological phenomena, or a conversation. And stock market feeds have certainly been a fecund source for projects such as that of Joshua Portway and Lisa Odegina's Stock Market Planetarium. This is an older work, but it's fantastic and really holds up. The elegant and ironic installation plays off the scientific trope and information metaphor of cosmology visualizations, suggesting a new astrological universe of corporations and their stocks, as artificial life creatures mutate, propagate, and die in the market, feeding off its movements and making graphical transitions, clumping and influencing the weight of a depicted universe. Interactivity and related cognitive processes imply a time-based experience, and navigating 3D and 2D visualizations often require rapt attention. Building on Deleuze's writings on cinema, Mark Hansen argues for an aesthetics that is appropriate to the temporal experiences of digital media. These create opportunities for humans to experience time and space in ways that stretch and extend our existing physical apparatus. And data visualizations of large and multi-dimensional data files occur on 3D screens and at times in 3D cave environments. These are full-body experiences, with the user is navigating data in real time, performing discovery simultaneously, often now with new annotation tools, or with retrospective thought. Aesthetics is mediated between the body and its object in a continual flow or becoming. And data visualization can also occur as an illustrative sidebar to highly interactive social media activity. Social media companies commission visualizations to allow users to catalog their resources and better understand and organize their relationship with others. These are 2 recent Twitter visualizations. They're kind of fun, actually. Bruno Latour and John Law and John Hassard describe technologies as invisible, non-human actors affecting the performance of a social network or process. And visualization has hence become a compelling strategy for some artists, a less disruptive and more aesthetic means to excavate technological structures than breaking technology. In data visualization, formalism and politicized deconstruction merge, creating visualizations that reveal socio-politic relationships within the data. This is a classic web stalker from 1995. Hence of importance are artists' initiatives to challenge the set of formal techniques and conversations that have emerged, linking data extraction methods, structures, metaphors, and metonyms. And artists offer a critique of the aesthetic norms of scientific and information visualization. Simon Pope and Matthew Fuller created WebStalker as one of the very first tools to crawl the web and build a visual diagram of hidden relationships between domains and their hierarchical ordering, discrediting any notion of search engine neutrality. If you think about 1995 and when they did this, it's quite remarkable. Its form is now common to many data visualization tools and social media. In an end to modernity by sculptural artist Josiah McKinley, oops, and that's more from sort of back engine stuff. It's a 10 by 15 foot accurate artistic version of the Big Bang, which itself is much more than an explosion. It's the origin of space and time, initiating an expansion that occurs everywhere and has no center in the structure of the sculpture. 1,000 Points of Light, a visualization by Naim Mohammed in the Disappeared in America project by the Visible Collective, and unfortunately this visualization has disappeared, is an animated map of mass detentions that occurred in the United States after September 11, 2001, providing information about the detainee and their country of origin. Viewers can update, or could, update the map with their own data. Such attempts to enforce transparency onto technoculture and offer an overt critique of power relationships can be described as data deconstruction. In The Secret Lives of Numbers, Golan Levin and his collaborators, Jonathan Feinberg, Shelley Winnicoop, and Martin Wattenberg, sought an understanding of which numbers reoccur more than others in order to, quote, determine the relative popularity of every integer between 0 and 1 million, unquote, and surmise about why this takes place, finding links to the functioning of human memory, social rituals, and the structure of commerce. In the face of our society's belief in the objectivity and power of mathematics, they argue for the subjectivity of numbers, and by implication data, stating, quote, humanity's fascination with numbers is ancient and complex. Our present relationship with numbers reveals a highly developed tool and a highly developed user, working together to measure, create, and predict ourselves and the world around us. But like every symbiotic couple, the tool we would like to believe is separate from us and thus objective is actually an intricate reflection of our thoughts, interests, and capabilities, unquote. They're playing with the conventions of data visualization, drawing on Tufte and Ware's rules of simplicity of display to comment on the aesthetic practices of scientific visualization, and at the same time developing a malleable, beautiful, and interactive visualization made up of data sets pulled from a wide range of search engines over a 5-year period. So one of the most dynamic growth areas of visualization by artists is text visualization, whether the massive quantities of scientific text, social media output, chat, or descriptive metadata. Artists with an interest in linguistics and conceptualism have turned to data visualization as a digital trajectory to linguistic intervention, semiotics, and conceptualism. Temporal structures define how text-based relationships emerge in the internet, with synchronous and asynchronous experiences providing very different feelings, intimacies, and forms of consciousness. These pile up on top of each other in layers, allowing relationships and expressions to feel like a thick texture of condensed time. We Feel Fine by Jonathan Harris and Seth Kanvar bears an interest in effective expression and uses the measurement of text data to find it. So obviously I have a lot of interest in this work. And We Feel Fine builds emotional portraits of specific online populations by extracting their feelings from web logs. The project provides 6 movements like a symphony, driven by statistical analysis and data aggregation, and reshaped by users' paths through the data. Feelings accumulate in mounds on the screen, quivering when the mouse cursor passes over. The sight is poignant and amusing. Other artists have been drawn beyond structural analysis to poetics. Data visualization becomes a means to write concrete poetry. Stephanie Posovic explores differences in writing style between authors of modern classics in her project Writing Without Words. So this is Jack Kerouac's On the Road. This is chapter 1. And Brad Paley created TextArc, a tool that allows text to be processed. Keywords are quantified and brought to the foreground, and it has been applied to literature, bodies of conference data, calendars, and other corpus. And this is Alice in Wonderland. So, to conclude, data visualization aesthetics are always contextual, depending on the data source, and equally are read in context, whether by scientist, social media user, or art audience member. Data do not exist in themselves, and data risks mystification. Many of the sources of data are already structured. The assumptions of these structures, the material impacts of underlying technologies and particular software, and the pervasive presence of tropes and metaphors need continuing unraveling in the practice of data visualization. Cognitive science has a key role to play in developing visualization aesthetics that privilege pattern recognition. Viewing complex 3D images and navigating through these requires eye-hand coordination and focused perception. Designing to facilitate or at times disrupt cognition requires that artists or designers draw from this body of knowledge. At the same time, cognitive science needs to recognize that visual expression carries with it the aesthetic and aesthetic traditions of its source technologies and the subjectivity of visual images at the most fundamental level. Data visualization approaches deriving from the art world are a great value in their own right, producing compelling works of art, and valuable as a means to raise new questions and approaches to data. Art's deconstructive tendencies are helpful in unfolding assumptions that are built into data collection and their structure. Experimental, abstract, multidimensional, highly interactive works can be immersive and provocative, perhaps more so than simplified visualizations that illustrate prefigured assumptions. Aesthetics that can evoke and provoke other disciplines, yet draw from the formal and critical values of art, bear great promise. This is a field where art and design practices can be engaged into multiple layers of discovery, of new forms of expression and of new realizations in the fields that are aligned with the source data, be these genomics, physics, economics, or information theory, prompting insights and reflection uncommon to contemporary practices of data visualization. Thank you. I'm sure there's people who would like to debate me.
Thank you, Sarah. That was fabulous. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit further about the uncanny and data visualization. I mean, I understood and it totally resonated for me. Data visualization is a new sublime, but it'd be interesting if you could expand a bit on the uncanny in that context.
No, I think, in a way it was a sort of self-reflection on my own practice over 10 years where I was attempting a kind of ironic relationship with data and biological representation. And